Welcome and thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Gina Noetica and this is Expanding Consciousness with Gina, a space where we explore ideas and have conversations that do exactly that, expand our consciousness. Today I am delighted to have a conversation with Freddy Silva. Freddy is a best-selling author and internationally respected researcher of ancient civilizations, restricted history, sacred sites, and their relationship with human consciousness. He is also widely regarded as one of the world's leading experts on crop circles. He has published 9 books in 6 languages, produced 16 documentaries, and has appeared on platforms including Gaia TV, the History Channel, BBC, and many global podcasts and conferences. In this episode, we begin with a relaxed conversation about music before moving into questions from our audience about Egypt, Lake Titicaca, ancient sites, and much more. So wherever you are, get comfortable, open your mind and your heart, and enjoy this conversation as we expand our consciousness together with Freddy Silva. Have you got a favorite soundtrack of 2025? What's been something, it could be a new song or just one from the past, but what's been something
Oh
you've played the
God,
most?
ask me a simple question. I don't know if you can see behind me. That's part of my record collection. That's part of my CD collection. That's just 1,200. There's a lot more around the corner. So have I come up with anything new recently? Um, there's a new album by John Seary, who's one of my favorite people. He designs soundtracks for planetariums. So
Oh,
his music is very star-like, the kind of thing you'd listen to when you're going from planet A to planet B in the quietness of space, and it really helps me write a lot. And his earlier stuff is my favorite. You know, everybody goes through their phases, and there's the middle period which starts getting a little bit sort of hubris and filled with mush, and then this new one is actually back to form again. And I was just listening to it and getting very relaxed. And I was just, in fact, I just finished writing a transcript for a new video I'm trying to work on Stoicism. And suddenly I realized how has it gone by? So that's been one thing. And a lot of French music, a lot of French jazz from the 50s and the 60s. It's timeless. There's
mm.
a hotel I stay in Lisbon, which is beautiful, absolutely beautiful place. I start my tours there with my group, and they love it. It's the Hotel Happiness or the Hotel of Joy, as it's translated. The whole plaza is dedicated to writers, poets, musicians, and people who've done good things in the literary world to make your life better. So I figured, what a great place to start a tour. And of course, I'm sitting out there as one does in Portugal. You always eat outdoors. First thing in the morning, it's when I get my thoughts straight. And I've got this French music from the 50s, all this jazz piping around me. I thought, you know what? It's weird to have a Beaux-Arts building in Lisbon having breakfast, listening to French music, but it just works.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also been one of my favorite sources this year. It's very enlightening. It has no time. You don't know which period you're in. That's the wonderful thing about French jazz. It's you can't place it, and
Mm.
it's all over the place. Very romantic, of course. You know,
Mm.
so that's
I
been a big.
enjoy jazz too. I think jazz is just amazing. I'm trying to encourage my daughter. She's got a saxophone to learn how to do jazz because I do
Oh,
enjoy like when the saxophone's done really well. I do enjoy jazz on a sax. So
oh yeah, oh
yes,
yeah.
yes. Now
I've got to
this
show my
reminds.
jazz collection, but I can't move my computer.
Oh,
It's quite big. I used to live in Chicago, so one thing led to the other. Yeah, I think that's what facilitated my divorce was the fact that I was coming home not with a paycheck, but with a paycheck having gone to pay for the records in the jazz store and coming home with a bag load of jazz LPs. And once you find your way in, it's an addiction. It really is. It
yeah.
clarifies, it cuts through. It's one of the best psychologies, I think. And I was fascinated by so many jazz musicians that ended their life shortly, and they had miserable lives, and especially if you were black and in America, even worse back then. And how jazz helped them through most of their life to evaluate their soul and cope with life. And I always wondered whether people who choose to be jazz musicians and incarnate as such are not doing it because they've already mastered everything in life and in the universe. Because to know jazz is to master the entire music scale and then some.
Mm. Mm.
The only thing that comes close is progressive rock, and and it's the same thing. Why use one note when you can have 400? So it's the same thing with jazz. It's the complete mastery of the music scale. And if music is the foundation of life, which it is, then one thought leads to the other. That jazz musicians as a soul may be very advanced beings and they find living here quite difficult. So they're doing themselves a favor. They're doing us a big favor as well.
Yeah, yeah, I love that perspective. And your collection there sort of, it sounds very, very advanced, but it reminds me a little bit of my dad, who's got an entire garage and a music room dedicated to albums. And we there's no
Ooh,
room for the car in the garage. It's just music, and often
well, like
tease
him.
him. Yeah. He
And the
could have built a
smell of
house with
dusty
it.
vinyl, you know.
Yes.
I was once in San Francisco. We're doing a soundtrack, and I went out for lunch. I said, "I'm going to go to Haight-Ashbury. I got a feeling that I'm going to find a copy of Jimi Hendrix's Electric Ladyland with all the naked prostitutes on the cover." On the cover, it's a very famous cover. Of course, in Puritan America, it was banned, and nobody knows this. So you've got the silly little yellow and orange album cover of Jimmy being a hero, and it's like, yeah, but it's not the same. So people laughed at me, and I said, "Yeah, even if you found it, you have to take out a mortgage to buy it. It's rare." I said, "Well, I'm just going to go for lunch." And you walk past the shop, and you get that smell of musty vinyl that's been in the basement or a garage for some time, and you go, "Oh!" And you just walk straight in like a trance, a bit like The Ring, you know, nice, precious. And I go straight for the H, and there it was. And I pulled it out. $10? No, it must be 1,000, surely. And I looked at the album, dead straight. There's no missing grooves. There's no dust. Absolutely mint condition. And I just ran to the front, paid $15 in cash, and I said, "Keep the change." I just want
Yeah.
to get out of there. And the guy, turns out he was a Brit behind the counter in San Francisco, and he goes, "Oh, I was wondering how long that was going to last. I just put it out 5 minutes ago. Had no idea of the true value in America of a band album." And I got
Oh
back to
my
the
gosh.
studio, and people were rushing off chairs, writing me checks for like 3 grand. No, 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 gentlemen and ladies, it's not for sale. I want you to hear Jimmy. I don't want you to listen to Jimmy. That's what a CD is for. I want you to hear Jimmy. This is
Mm,
an album with analog music. Do we have a turntable? Good, bring it out. We just sat there
mm,
listening to wax and the needle dropping on the wax. Yeah, now I can hear Jimmy. So
mm.
I still have it just in case things go south and I have to be kicked out of the country. And at least I have one thing I can sell and buy a house with.
Well, it could be your entry to New Zealand. It could be that 3 mil. Who knows?
I know. Yeah, I'm sorry, you haven't got enough money to be here, and you're too old now to come into the country. But oh, you've got a copy of the Jimi Hendrix album. Okay, we'll let you in.
Exactly.
Now that would be cool.
Yeah.
Some maple syrup as well.
Yes, please. Because I've often thought you'd be amazing at writing your own album, because you've been to some of the most incredible places in the world, known for the frequencies and the resonance, and I'm sure these archaeological sites that you go to have songs within them. Um, are you thinking of doing this, or?
No, I think the time has passed. I mean, I actually pulled out my guitar for the first time in a year, and believe me, once your calluses go, it hurts when you put the pressure on the string. And I play electric
Mm,
first to get the pressure going, then I've gone to the acoustic to get that sort of to get the muscles going. But believe me, after a day, it hurts. So put it back in the box, and it'll come back again in a couple of days. No, I think you have to be. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'll sort of stop writing one day and stop producing videos, and maybe I'll just sit down looking at my navel and go, "Hey, how about writing an album?" I mean, I tried to do it back when I was a teenager because I wanted to be I want to be a rock star. I had the
mm,
hair for it. It's all down to here, and all that. But I also knew I wasn't that great, and I didn't have the confidence. I really lacked self-esteem and confidence back then. And but I wrote a lot of music back then. I had a lot of bands, even in Chicago. I had a band, and it was good fun. It was a good way to solve your problems. A couple of hours on stage, whether you're doing covers or your own stuff, didn't matter. It is a great psychology to use music to heal yourself, and it was wonderful. But I think you'd have to get back into that sort of mode again. I think there has to be some sort of strange deficit in your life to create greatness. I think Sting is the only one person that I know that can create greatness no matter what mood he's in. But most musicians need that angst in their life to create that, bring out that inner turmoil. I can use my past relationship from and my ex New Zealand girlfriend as a part of a way to heal myself and get out and put some stuff out there. But grunge has already been done, so I can't go
Yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah. I
Maybe the
mean,
writing will influence things.
yeah, I'm sure you could channel the angst of others, perhaps. You seem to be quite sensitive to what's going on around you. So,
I mean, I do that with writing anyway. I mean, writing books or making documentaries is a way of getting out there and putting your personal stuff, but in a way that helps people and eventually myself as well. But it's a good flow, and this is why I find it weird for the first time in 30 years not to have an idea going on through my head. There's always something going on in here, and it is weird sitting here for like the last 4 months and going, I really have nothing new to say. This is so
mm,
strange. There's a vacuum going on in here. Maybe it's waiting for something else to fill in because you get to a point where you've begin to repeat yourself. And I don't want to do that. I want to
no,
stay fresh. I want to say something that matters and not contribute to the noise. And but it is a bit strange. And maybe it's time to sort of change rails again and go and do something else. I just don't know. I mean, that I don't know stage. And it's
mm,
fine. It's some days it's not fine. Sometimes you start panicking and then you go, okay, just okay, control, control. This is all part of a plan. And you just have to go with the flow, just to know where it is. But it's a great way to keep your mind focused on not becoming the devil's playground, as they say, with
mm.
an idle mind. So, and in my
Mm.
case, it can become an amusement park. So, so when I've got something going, my focus is totally on the work. And 2 weeks I can put together a documentary. I work
Yeah.
very fast. I like keep the momentum going a bit like I don't know if you're familiar with Glenn Hughes of Deep Purple, the bass player, a great musician in his own right. But he's the
Mm.
same way. Great admirer
Right.
of him. Yeah, because he
Yeah.
was an alcoholic. He was a real alcoholic and a drug taker, and he stopped drinking. He hasn't drunk in 20 years now, and he uses the music as a channel, a creativity
Mm.
channel, in order to keep himself balanced, and it's done wonders for him.
Mm.
So yeah, it is. There is something about writing and being creative, no matter what you do, whether it's gardening, uh,
Mm.
trying new makeup or whatever. I wouldn't know. Sewing
Are you
clothes,
sure?
feeding the poor.
Yeah.
Well, there is that part of me,
I
Um,
knew it.
so you never know. It's about applying your mind. And I was reading one of the things that I was doing in the last week was reading about all the Stoics and the philosophers of Greece and the
Mm.
Roman era and Marcus Aurelius especially. And I found myself getting totally into that rhythm again of
Hmm.
understanding very basic truths about life, how to improve the quality of your daily life by taking some very basic common sense precautions. And I realized there's something here that's worth doing here. And in fact, that's what
Mm.
I'm writing right now, going over Marcus Aurelius' notes and going, I can put together 16 sort of, how do we say, not phrases, but ideas that he and even Plato were working on, whereby you can actually look at your life in a different way. Stop reacting to things because the reaction is the problem. So you go within, you learn calm, very Buddhist. And
Mm.
you start to separate the exterior from the interior and you take control. Now, we forget about this. People go, oh, yeah, that's common sense. But yeah, how many people actually do this on any given day? Now, even
Mm.
one out of these 16 ideas, hardly anyone does it. And I'm including myself in that one. So it's a good way to sort of look at this as another idea, another project of teaching people about self-empowerment because so many people are walking around like headless chickens right now. There's so much trouble in the world right now.
And I
Yeah.
think that kind of leads into listening in a different way, like self-empowerment, and like because you, with all the things that you've done in your life, I could imagine being able to kind of guide people into listening in a different way, like not just audibly with your ears, but obviously, like you mentioned Plato, and he's amazing listening to the sound of the spheres.
Yeah.
And there is a sound to the planets. When I'm around water, there's a sound to it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, can you hear the song of the water? Can you? And people can't, but there's a different type of listening. There's a way to listen differently. And it's different
Yeah.
to how we maybe listen to the music, but I'm curious, like, have you got any kind of insights or guidance you can give us to listen differently and to hear these other sounds around
Oh,
us?
it comes down to mindfulness. That's what it comes down to. I do this with my tours as well, and I get people. The first day, I'll remind them how much money they paid to come on tour with me, and I'm actually charging a fraction of what other people do. Which I don't know how we do it. We make a good profit. Everybody's happy. We stay in good places, and we still can undercut anybody. But then it also means that they sell out in 50 seconds. So I don't have to advertise. But the first thing I do on the day, on the morning of when we get started, and everyone's very happy and they've got the cameras, and it's like, it's about mindfulness. It's not about the Templars, not about large upright rocks and temples. It's about mindfulness. It's about you being in the present moment. And if you just follow that basic idea, in a week from now or 2 weeks, when you get back to the airport, you will suddenly recognize how much noise is coming at you every single day because you tuned it out. You're mindful of the location where you're at. I remember being around the pyramids and saying, there's millions of people here. They've all come to take pictures of themselves and use the pyramids as a backdrop. I'm going to go around the back of the pyramids and I'm going to take you there where there's nobody there. And the lighting's a bit better too. And I want you to hear the building. And people think I'm nuts. I said, no, I want you to hear the building. In fact, don't take pictures. Take the pictures at the end. Just go there and just ask a question. Tell the pyramid that you're happy to be here. Or say a word of gratitude. Bring some flowers, or just drop a little drop of water in the desert. Something like that. And suddenly I'm looking at people's demeanor changed, completely changed. In 10 days, they're hearing something and they'll come up to me and say, listen, have you noticed that this, and this, and that room? I said, actually, no, I haven't. I haven't paid as much attention to that room as I should have. They've now found something which even I, after 28 times in Egypt, did not see because they were mindful. They were totally in their own space. That's all it comes down to. And I mean, I use New Zealand as a great example because that's where I get my batteries recharged more than anywhere else on the planet. Most because there's hardly anyone there, especially on the South
Mm.
Island. But it's also the fact that you can disappear into the landscape and you can hear the landscape. You can hear the sacred spring. It's not just water bubbling, it's water that has music in it. And all you have to
Yes.
do is just be by yourself, be mindful, and be aware of the wind around you. There's a technique that I usually tell people to prepare to be a bit more mindful, and I catch them off guard every time. So it's a bit of a dark humor that goes on. And they'll walk into a situation. I said, without thinking, write down 10 or just say 10 sounds that you can remember from the last 15 minutes.
Mm.
And there's silence everywhere. They'll get to like one, maybe two, and they're stuck. I said, right, now I want you to go back around the building. I want you to be mindful of everything. If there's a crow picking a worm half a mile away, I want you to hear it. If there's a mother screaming at the child because the child did something silly, remember that. If there's clothing on the line flopping in the wind, remember that. Go away.
Mm.
So I'm sitting there having quietly having some chocolate, whatever, and they'd come back and I said, right, now write down 10 things you heard in the last 15 minutes, and they can't stop writing
Mm.
to the point where, yeah, I could hear the grass moving, the grass growing. Yeah, in
Yeah.
the heat of the sun, you can actually hear the wheat bursting or the grass beginning to move, a beetle moving over a dung ball. Yeah, and now you're aware, you're sensitive. So wherever you go, you become much more sensitive to your environment. It's amazing how much you can perceive. And then from there, it's 10 things that you've observed in the walk that you did in 15 minutes. Again, if you could just do that every single day, it's incredible how quickly you become perceptive of the world around you and little
Mm.
things. And after that, you do these two things regularly, automatically, in a very short space of time. You can start seeing people coming out of walls, people moving through rooms, energy. I mean, I can do this after years of learning about dowsing and then saying, no, no, you don't need the rods or the pendulum. You can see the energy, you can feel it, you can become the energy. Now, what? Okay, they're smoking something strange. No, I can do the same thing now because I've done it so much. And for me, it's like a very personal relationship with subtle energy. Like Reiki people do the same thing. So for
Mm.
me, it's second nature. I'm actually sitting on an energy current right now. I have no other choice. It runs diagonally through my apartment. So where I am right now, I'm in the middle of the energy. So right now it's a bit reddish color. Now that I'm thinking about it, so that's all you need. It's a very simple technique, a simple device, but it was taught to me by a very, very gifted psychic in England, and it was good enough for her. So I'm just imitating what she did because it works for me.
Can we know the name of this famous psychic, or is it quite private?
Yeah, Isabel Kingston.
Isabel
She,
Kingston. Yeah.
it runs in her family. I mean, there's a few people in life that you come across that are actually true psychics. It's in the
Mm.
blood itself.
Mm.
And she often works with the police, solves many of their most depressing cases. And even just
Mm.
over a cup of tea, she'll have it all figured out.
Right.
She was the foundation of the deciphering the crop circles, or at least understanding where they came from, which led me
Ah.
to write my first book. Is how we met. And I think she's kind of semi-retired now. I actually no one dared guess her age. I mean, no one asked a lady her age anyway, but especially someone with Aries with Leo rising, you do not ask a woman her age. And we're totally secretly in awe and afraid of her. But last time I had dinner with her about a year ago, I hadn't seen her for 6 years. And I said, well, you're looking pretty good for 78. I said, how'd you know? I said, you taught me too well. Yes, I did. No, I was the one in the room paying attention.
The information that we need is all around us all the time. So, where do you see this going? Do you think people are going to catch up fast enough and kind of realize that they've got all the information they need and all the truth they need?
To quote Yoda, hard to see the future is. Things are very convoluted right now. I
Mm.
said this 12 years ago when people were laughing at me that I don't do social media and I'm not stuck to my cell phone. And I said, there's a reason for that because I don't want to be bothered wasting my life, my 70 odd years that I'll be here on this planet with trivial nonsense, which
Mm.
really is. If I want to be
Mm.
trivial, I'll be there just for now, just to sort of, because I've got nothing better to do. But still, I could see where the propaganda will be taking over people's minds. And I can see so many people being agitated by non events. They don't exist in reality. They're made
Mm.
up by propaganda, usually right wing propaganda. And I'm sorry if that offends people, but it is the truth. It is usually
Mm.
right wing propaganda that's to blame for the trouble in the world because it's about them. It's about a small group of people trying to create chaos in order to enrich the very few people, like here in America right now. And having said that, I'll probably be detained and deported because that's how bad things are here. But I see it in New Zealand as well, with all the demonstrations that happened around COVID. But you know what? What was happening in New Zealand was happening everywhere else too. I mean, and I think that difference of being very remote in the world, people didn't realize that was happening everywhere else as well. And we cope with it. I mean, it was difficult, but we all cope with it. We found ways to cope. And that's the biggest problem right now to people having mindfulness and taking care of their own business rather than reacting to things which, when you actually do some factual research, it isn't there. It does not exist. These are factions that are trying to fight against our best resources, our best intentions, and also with each other. That's how the snakes govern. You divide and conquer. It's a very easy, simple technique, and I learned this in school in London when I was 12. My history teacher taught me this. Yeah, it's right there. So the first thing is you have to be aware that the problem exists and then remedy the situation. So you've got to go back to that stoic philosophical thinking. It's like, yeah, don't react, take a deep breath and do some research. So is this really true? And usually it's not true. So why am I reacting to it? Go with them. Whether you want to do Buddhism or Zen or yoga, it doesn't matter. There are many techniques. You go in and relax, take control. What's important in my life? How
Mm.
can I be the person I came here to be? And now you change the conversation. Now, one person does that and they reflect that. Your neighbor's going to pick up on that, and that neighbor won't, but that's okay because it's a free will planet, and you're never going to fix the planet. It was never meant to be fixed. The Earth will go on doing what it's done for millions of years. Humans are just a minor inconvenience along the way, but 50% of those humans are here to do the right thing, and
Mm.
half of them are getting it right, and the other half are completely going off the edge of the cliff very quickly. Unfortunately, they're dragging us with them. So the trick is to, like Gandhi said, you have to be the change you wish to see,
Mm.
and don't worry about everyone else because they probably are in a worse place than you are, or fighting their
Yeah.
own battles. And that's what I see a lot right now. People are confused, they're angry, they feel that there's no one supporting them, and to a certain degree, it's true. Because leadership, good leadership, is a very, very low commodity right now. I remember there was a wonderful young prime minister of Finland who was kicked out because the Russians basically caught of having going to a disco. Yeah, well, she's a human being. It's the weekend. She's the prime minister, and if anything goes wrong, I'm sure someone will let her know that attention is needed. But just for an hour, she just wanted to behave like a young person and just let her hair out. You know,
Mm.
and of course, the opposition used that to kick her out of office. So now they have a right wing government, which no one's very enthused about. So we need to basically be very aware that these things are happening. And as a collective, we start putting this information out, not worrying about who's going to be influenced and who is going to be influenced, because let the sticks fall where they may. And hopefully we'll avert a major disaster because you can see this is going in a very, very dark location right now. I want to say I am not very happy with the way I see things, but you know what? There's always the potential for change.
Mm.
I've always argued that if you wake up one morning and look at the sky and see a massive piece of rock hurtling towards the earth with a 100% certainty that's going to wipe everybody out, you're going to wake up pretty quickly and love your neighbor. You really are.
Yeah.
But, and humans are very good at doing that throughout history. You wait till the very last moment to react and then implement things which should have been done decades earlier. But sometimes you have to be faced with total extinction in order to wake up, smell the roses, and be a better person. You're on a ship traveling through space at 500,000 miles a second. You might as well enjoy the ride and be nice to the people that are on the ship because you can't get rid of them. That's just one of those minor rules. Yeah, there
Yeah.
are there are a-holes in your life, but you don't have to be like them. You can just accept them for who they are and just do your own thing. Act in your own demeanor, and hopefully someone will go, "Hey, that's a better way of doing things." And there's nothing new under the sun that I'm saying here, but you know what? We don't act on this. The information is there. There's nothing new under the sun. I've seen a lot of documentaries on Gaia and books written recently about new ways of thinking. But you know what? When I read them, there's nothing new about them at all. The verb
Mm.
and the adjective happen to be in the different position on the sentence. There's nothing really new. What I write about, there's nothing really much new. I'm just doing a different way of looking at it for a modern audience. But you know what? I'm probably plagiarizing Plato and the Egyptians and the Buddhists and so forth, as far as I know, because it really is nothing new. Just another way of
Mm.
looking at it from another point of view, but the goal is the same. It's about self-awareness and self-improvement. So all
Mm.
the stuff is there. All the fruits are there. The trees are ripe. It just requires someone to have the courage to go out and pick the damn fruit, eat it, and then don't throw the core away, plant the damn core, and get another tree going. It's not that difficult when you think about it,
Mm.
or it is for some people. But again, that's what distractions are all about. And if you get distracted with the minutiae and things that don't really have much worth in life, like social media, then yeah, you're stuck in that treadmill. And before you realize it, someone's got control of you.
Mm. I think that's a really good point around distractions as well. And I often like with the work that I do with the waters, in my terms, I call the age that we're in the epoch of the waters. And to me, it's very similar to the age of Aquarius. We've got the water bearer pouring out the
Mm,
knowledge. And I feel that the waters have all the information within them that we need, like all these ancient languages, codes, all the information we need to just,
mm,
live in a way that supports the earth and supports humanity and keeps us really, really connected, but deeply connected, a type of connected that we can't even imagine, in our day and age. And
yeah.
the funny thing is at the end, like once we start to actually reconnect and listen to the waters again and awaken them within us, we would be like, oh my gosh, it was here all the time, like right under our noses. All the
Mm,
information was in the waters, and we just went through thousands of years of not even noticing that the very thing we drink every day and all the water within us and around us had everything we needed and is right
Yeah.
here. But we're so distracted with everything else, with, like you say, division or social media or other things going on.
Yeah, and especially in New Zealand, where so much of the water is so wonderful, so drinkable, and of course you got the waitaha, the water carriers, in your favor.
Ah, yes.
Um, yeah, I mean, I remember going to. Should I make this public? Because when you find someone that's so beautiful and so perfect, you don't want to share it with anybody else, because then you go the next time there's 5,000 people. There is a walk, a hike, a tramp. Since we're talking New Zealand language, a tramp that I used to adore. On the way to Milford Sound, everybody goes to Milford Sound. Personally, I find Doubtful Sound actually even more interesting, but be that as it may. But just before you start making a trip down to Milford Sound, you take a left turn, and there's a big mountain range there in the middle of a rainforest. And I won't tell you the name, but I can tell you the lake begins with an M. And Lake M, because you got to do a little bit of the work, you see. Well, I saw it on Google Earth, and I thought, oh, this is my favorite type of walk. So you start with the river, the lush rainforest, the big ferns, and then you go off through tundra, and then it's a dry sort of tussock land, and then you're kind of in the middle of an old glacial valley, and then you've got a big moraine, a big lake at the top. And it's like, oh, you got everything in one day. And of course, most of the glacier is gone because of the heating that's going on. It's still at the top of the mountain, and the whole mountain range has been sculpted in that U shape, classic shape. And I remember being up there, and of course, you've been up for 3 hours now hiking, and you just run out of water. Okay, your backpack is empty. And looking over at the distance, and there's a beautiful waterfall coming right out of the glacier at the top of the mountain range. And you think, that water has been there for 40,000 years. It's just now coming out. I need the water. It's only another 15-minute hike. I can do it. And you get there, and there's nobody there, absolutely nobody there. Cloud comes around the corner, at head height, looks like a big ship, literally just right over the lake. And the most incredible thing, doesn't make a sound. And I thought, you know what? I'm going to take my clothes off and get under the waterfall. It's going to hurt, but you know what? Not if there's nobody around, I'm not going to hear you screaming. And I remember the water just touching my lips, and I've never drank water that clear, that pure in my entire life. Back to your point, and it was like drinking sugar, and I kept drinking and drinking, and because you're drinking this water that's a little bit above freezing, there's a point where at 4 degrees Celsius is at surface tension, which is perfect. That's what it was exactly. And it
Wow.
does something to your body. You begin to actually get high on this potentized natural water. You're drinking the memory of stuff that was there 40,000 years ago. You're getting visions, and you can't stop drinking. You get a little bit of a headache, of course. And next time I went back there, I actually took 5 bottles, empty bottles in my backpack to fill up. I had that water for like 2 weeks. I rationed
Yeah.
myself, but I could see everything with total clarity as soon as I'd done that. Just sitting there, probably quite cold, and just looking out at the scenery, and I'm literally just hallucinating, having this wonderful experience, just because the memory in that water was going through my system, circulating and awakening everything. That was a great day. I totally recommend that. So yeah, a great thing about New Zealand. Number 486, another good thing about the country.
We do have some wonderful things, but that is a beautiful illustration of how, all the information is within the waters, and our tap water, I mean, it's just not the same, like it's just been through such a process, and it just doesn't, it's very disorderly. Like if you actually look at the structure of it, like if you do crystallography or any other kind of science with it, it's a very disordered water. But the type of water that you were describing just sounds so primary. It sounds so healing. It sounds very
Yeah,
structured and amazing. And even at that temperature, I believe there's sound in there. Like when I hear water get to that temperature, there's a sound, like a song
yeah,
that gets sung, and it's really beautiful on the cells. It's almost like makes your cells kind of vibrate. And like you say,
yeah.
it's almost like an interdimensional shift. It phases you in and out. You actually start to realize you're a part of a much bigger reality of all these interdimensional existences. And yeah, it's almost like the water is a portal, right? Yeah,
Oh, I
that
totally
kind of
agree.
water.
Yeah, and it's cheaper than drugs and more legal in some countries.
Yeah.
No, it's true. And I mean, and Masato Emoto-san, he is also highlighting the point years ago when he was doing a prayer ceremony with
Mm.
the Buddhist monk, the Shinto monks in a reservoir that supplies Tokyo with its water. The water's just not really that great. And they tested the water and did the crystallography of it. Looks horrible. They did a prayer and put the intention into the water, and the whole crystal structure, literally in 5 minutes, it changed. That's
Hmm.
incredible. I mean, we have 75% of the planet covered by water, and we don't know much about it at all. We're still scratching the surface. We want to go to Mars and the moon and go to outer space and, and bring all that junk with it. Why don't you look at the water? It's our biggest savior and our biggest healer, and so few people are aware of the goodness that it can do. I mean, literally, just putting water in your refrigerator at 4 degrees Celsius does wonders for your body.
Mm.
Swirling around in a spiral pattern, give it some motion. And when it comes out of the
Yeah.
faucet, that's all you need. It's very simple. Again, we have everything at our disposal. We don't need any more.
Right.
Everything that's here is here. In fact, everything in this planet that ever we have now was here at the very beginning. We just keep changing it, making a
Really.
car out of iron or whatever. But
Mm.
yeah, all the water that's ever been on this planet is here today when it was here at the beginning. Nothing's ever been taken away, and nothing's ever left, nothing's been added.
That's
Meteorites
right.
don't usually carry water. So when you think about that,
Mm.
that's a huge responsibility. So
I
yeah,
think you mentioned a really interesting point around the vortex or around the movement of water actually helps to restructure it. I notice that whenever I, walk across the lanes or near water, if I sense a portal, to me, there's an energy movement similar to a vortex.
yeah.
So for me, I find it really interesting that water gets its charge again through going through, like, say, vortexes or a lot of movement. And when it does, it has the ability to do what it's normally meant to do, which is hold a lot of light, because actually now science is saying that water is more light than it is actually wet stuff.
Oh,
So
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's really, really interesting. And we call ourselves light beings, and the more our water within us is structured, the more ability we have to hold light. And I feel like sometimes these portals that you often speak about, not that I've been personally to many, but if I just am traveling within my consciousness, I get this kind of vortexy kind of swirl going on within my body. And it's like, oh, it's like
Yeah.
the energy again. It's just like how water gets its charge and its
Yeah.
structure. It's
Just drink the water from Lake M.
also
Or even
mysterious.
and that spring up north in the North Island, which I won't embarrass myself by trying to say that the name begins with a W, I think.
Just say poo poo. We just say poo poo. Poo poo springs. That's what.
Anybody who's listening from like Portugal or Spain is going to go, "Ooh, that means something very different and not very pleasing in that language." Yeah, I remember just going there for the first time, and I think I was by there myself again, and just getting high and getting sucked into that portal of that place really is a portal,
Mm,
and because you see the water coming out of the hole in the ground because it's so clear, and all the spiral motion, and before you realize it, you're watching the spiral motion, and you've become the spiral motion, and just the negative ions that it's generating. You're high. You're absolutely high.
mm.
You're away with the fairies. I just couldn't leave. I just found myself going in between worlds and having a lovely time doing nothing, just staring at vortices going around the water, coming out of the ground, and took out my notebook and I thought, that's an interesting idea. Where did that come from? Yeah, I mean, you've got that just by itself. Quite an amazing
Yeah.
place.
Yeah, it's amazing. You can see over 50 meters down. It's one of the most clearest springs in the world. It's just stunning. How do you feel water is important in these ancient sites? Like, I've just had a friend come back from Egypt and they've brought me a sample of water, which I haven't got my hands on yet. But
Hopefully, it didn't come from the Nile.
from, no, I won't be drinking it, but I'm going to study it. um, but say when I do my channelings, I get the information around the waters are moving. And what I mean by that is things like they'll show me around, like the Kaimanawa wall in New Zealand, which is like the pyramid, and it's around the waters underneath that are going to become activated again. This is the next stage of the energy coded information and templates within the pyramids being reactivated and awakened within humanity faster. It's like another step. And when I look at the pyramids over in Egypt, and I know that the Nile has moved, it's not where it used to be at the time of, like, the pyramids being built, which I feel like is a way, like a symbol of consciousness moving away from our original blueprint, our energetic blueprint. Um, do you have any idea or any inkling about whether the waters, like the Nile or any other water flow system in Egypt, is starting to make its way back closer to the sphinxes or the pyramids?
Not in that particular area because you've got all the siphoning of the water up the river in
Mm,
Sudan. So
mm,
what reaches Egypt now is a fraction of what should be there. And then
mm.
you've got all the concretization of urban regeneration and the sprawl of Giza and Cairo. They're now building a second Cairo, by the way, incredibly enough.
Oh,
I
wow.
remember when was it? I started going to Egypt around 1999, and I remember not seeing anything around the pyramids except for the Mena House and a couple of other hotels. Now there's an entire town next to it. They've got hotels. They've got a runway behind the pyramids. Can you believe it?
Oh,
So all of that is stopping the water from going anywhere near it, and the water table is actually receding. No, things are moving. Things are reshaping, and I think if you accept that humans are part of the planet, and the reaction to nature is also a reaction to how nature works and moves. And if you don't work with that ebb and flow of nature, then you are lost. But by the same token, nature and the weather reacts to human thought and emotion. The two are intertwined. I think that they're just moving to different parts of the country in order to start and activating new areas because some of these places are no longer functioning. They've been
mm,
given so much trivial attention that just stop. They've become tourist venues now. And even in Yucatan, where I'm going to be in a couple of months, I've seen for the first time ever building railroads and train stations next to the pyramids so that people don't have to get out of the bus now. They can just go there and it's going to bring even more tourism. So you go up to the temple and you go, yeah, I'm sorry. I know this is pretty bad, but I do sense for the first time in several thousand years that we are going to be building new temples in
mm,
new locations because of the movement of not just the weather, but water itself. Because the fundamental element in any temple, in any sacred site on the planet, even in the middle of the Australian desert, is water. You've got to have water. Without water, you have no temple. That's the
mm,
first rule of any temple building process.
mm,
So let's say in the middle of Alice Springs, and you got Uluru, yeah, there is still water running under there. And not too long ago, there was a massive lake just to the south of there. It's still on maps in the 18th century. So there is underground things that are taking place. And the place remains sacred because of the movement and the flow and the prayers and good wishes that people bring to those locations. That's what keeps them moving again and again and
mm,
again. It keeps the place active. Same thing with the birthplace of the gods in New Zealand, the Kuratapiti, or Castle Hill to the English speaking crowd. There's a lot of water moving under the actual limestone of the plain, and you can go and see it. I mean, you can cross the road and you take that little short drive to the parking spot, and there's a cave there where the river just disappears into that cave. And if you're not careful, you slip and you'll go with it. You'll find yourself 15 miles away, somewhere near the Pacific Ocean. So all that
I
stuff
did
is
go
still.
swimming in those caves.
Good God, good luck to them. They've got more courage than I do. But all of that water is moving under the ground as well because limestone is wonderful for creating tunnels naturally. So all that stuff is moving under places like that, and it still keeps it active. But it's people like you and me that go there, or even projecting your thoughts and your prayers to these sites that keeps them active. But it's a dying process. I mean, part of my job is to make people aware that this process is happening and to
Mm,
contribute it by building your own sacred space, no matter where you live, even in your living room. I mean, you can't
mm,
tell there's one in my living room because it's so well hidden, but it's here.
mhm,
This is the next stage, I think, because we tend to forget that temples have also a set lifespan. You know, once they stop mimicking what's in the sky, then they just become beautiful monuments, and we build other stuff down the road. This is the way it's always been. And I feel for the first time in 4,500 years that we have stopped building temples, that we're now ready to go to the next level. Um, the crop circles and the appearance of crop circles was part of that actual process. And we have that from the channel material from
Mm.
Isabel Kingston, that we were supposed to figure out which ones were man-made and which ones are real, to mark the real ones, because they said, and I quote, these will be used at the sites of the future temples. It's now coming back to me from 35 years ago. A very important piece of information. And I said, yeah, I can see that we'll be building a new Stonehenge in this particular valley in the middle of England. Yeah, why not? When everything's fallen apart and society has lost its rudder, which it really is, there will be a knee-jerk reaction by people like us who want to start a new sort of civilization. It's already happening quietly behind the scenes. So it's important to remember that things are flowing, and they're not standing still. They're moving to a new direction. So I'm hopeful that, if not in our generation, certainly the next generations to come will start thinking about their alignment to nature, and they'll start recreating sacred space in a new way, you know.
Yeah, I hope so too. I think we're just on the edge of really starting to understand the geometries and the frequencies and the music and the sounds and the male, female, energies that all go into architecture, and how that can be incorporated into architecture
Exactly.
or our new buildings. And I'm not sure we're there yet. I mean, in New Zealand, we can't even build roads that last more than a couple of weeks. I don't know how we're going to build temples that are going to last, but I have faith that there is a bit of a change in our understanding, and that we'll get there. How do you think we're going to start building these new temples? Like, are we going to be capable of actually understanding how to do it, or do you think we're going to literally get help from other beings coming through and talking or channeling, interdimensionally? Or do you think they'll physically come to Earth and help us again, or do you think we're going to do it ourselves and figure it
Oh,
out?
we'll be doing it ourselves. They made
Yeah.
it quite clear that. I remember one of the challenges, because I asked this question. So, when are you likely to be coming back? And the response was, well, just because we were more advanced than your average hunter gatherer doesn't mean that we didn't succumb to the same issues as everywhere else does on the planet Earth. When you
Mm,
throw rocks at us, yeah, we bleed, it hurts. So we stopped
mm,
doing it. So now it's up to you. So we suggest things through channeling, crop circles, inspiration. A
mm-hmm,
lot of my work comes from inspired knowledge just by sitting somewhere at a sacred site and going, so what's this all about? And before you know it, I got a chapter written. I didn't do it. It came from something else, because I wasn't aware of that information, but I have to go and research it, back it up with some science and some facts, so that people don't think I'm, a little bit woo-woo. And it's there. You just have to do the hard work. So I do
mm,
think it's a mixture of everything. I think everything is a knee-jerk reaction as people start swinging to the right and start accommodating fascists and dictators. And there's so much of stuff going around on the world right now. I can't even believe that people don't remember their history. That's the sad part. It will create its own knee-jerk reaction when people realize it's a dead end. This political move to the right is a dead end, always has been in history. And once they realize it, and we're probably going to, a lot of people get hurt as a result, as always, there will be a reaction, and people will say, well, surely we can do this better. Yeah, it's called, understanding the sacred space around it. There's nothing new. And a part of my trajectory was to teach people how to build their own temple, which
mm.
I've had a video now for, 2 decades. It's looking a bit old, but you know what? The information still works. And I watch people every week building stuff around the world. They'll buy a plot of land, they'll build it in the garden, or they'll buy the top of a mountain when you have lots of money. And I see, I'm just directing people when they don't have the confidence to do it, and I get the response like, "Yeah, this stuff really works." And you got to be careful of what you ask when you go into these places, because you're going to get back exactly what you requested, and sometimes
Mm.
what you get is not in the same way that you thought you were going to receive. So be careful of your thoughts in these places. I said, yeah, I've just learned how to do this by observing, doing it how the ancients were doing it, and synthesizing it in a way that even my grandmother could understand it. And I'm just telling you how to do it. And it's taking hold. I didn't realize how popular it's become. So
Mm.
my little sort of thing is just to teach people how to empower yourselves by building sacred space.
Mm.
connecting with the land. It's not that difficult. And some other people are doing it in other ways by writing books or doing lectures or going to show people how space works by going on tours. There's all kinds of people doing all kinds of simple little things. But just as the ocean is the accumulation of billions of drops of water, so each little effort is contributing to the empowerment of people who, suddenly realize my compass is pointing south. What was I thinking doing this for a living and living in the world of appearances and buying pair of shoes for $400 when, a pair for 50 it does equally well because I was
Yeah.
just trying to show off and be better. Yeah. So when people recognize that their world has come to a dead end, that's when they're forced to look around and going, I need to take care of my life because time's running out. I'm already 50 and I'm not 50. I might look it, but the thing is, I've done so much nonsense with my life, and it's never too late to turn around. So
Mm.
again, the stuff is there, the information is there, but you can't force anyone to go there. You can only lead the horse to water, but they have to drink the water themselves. So
Yeah.
again, you just have to be that change and let things fall where they may, and people by their own circumstances will gravitate towards that thing. I was reading somewhere, I can't remember which country it was. I think it was in England, where the cost of living is absolutely crazy, which is one reason why I left. And suddenly people realize that we can't afford to go buying groceries, and they suddenly realize, hey, we don't have if we all the money that we waste on packaged food, so you can just put it in the microwave and sit in front of the television and go, with stuff that doesn't has no nutritional value for you. They finally worked out if we buy fresh food and learn how to cook it, we can save a fortune. Bing,
Mm.
and that's a very simple exercise. You don't have to drink yourself to death. A pint of beer will do, or a glass of wine will do. Yeah, and sometimes just have some. In fact, I'm going to make that this evening. Some nice little meatballs with some tomato sauce and some organic spaghetti, and that's it. And some, some spinach on top. Pretty
Mhm.
healthy. Checks all the boxes for us meat eaters who like vegetables. And
Mhm.
yeah, it's going to cost me what, $2? Wow. It was a prepackaged meal which has no nutritional value, where it cost me five. So people are beginning to wake up again because they recognize something
Yeah.
is wrong. They're going down the wrong dark alleyway, and there's nowhere to go but a dark brick wall. So again, there is hope in all of this that because of the very nature of what we've done to ourselves, it's actually helping to wake us up.
Yeah.
Slowly, we catch the monkey,
I
and for us
agree. I feel
people who
like
have got patience, it's like, oh, just get on with it.
I do feel like these times of extremes are actually waking us up again. Like you say, cost of living, sure, it's expensive and it's painful, but people find new ways. We actually start to work in community again. We start to realize,
Exactly.
oh, we can grow our own food, we can do our own things, we can eating whole foods, simple foods is actually better for us. It reduces the health costs for the country and all these other
Yeah.
benefits as well. So,
And we've got all
um,
this fish around New Zealand. I mean, I could live on green mussels alone. In
oh,
fact, I was living on green mussels alone for a long time. Every time I go there, it's like I've never seen mussels this big. It's ridiculous. That was
yeah,
a meal in itself. It cost me what, $2 at the grocery store. You steam them and a little
mhm,
bit of wine, some garlic, and a little butter. My God, that's so
yeah,
good for you.
yeah,
And they replenish themselves. I mean, mussels are, definitely not an endangered species. They grow by the day. So it's
yeah.
not as if you're going to, run out of mussels. Unlike sushi, I have to
No,
have.
that's right. Yeah.
Once I realized that my favorite sashimi is actually hamachi, which is the yellowtail. It's a very endangered fish. I've cut myself down to four pieces a year, and sometimes
Hmm.
just two a year, and that's it. That's I can have the common sense to say, if I want to keep eating this, I got to stop. So just
Mm.
two. That's it, and I'm happy. I have that
Yeah.
memory and that yearning. Yeah. So then there's a time to replenish itself. And I know this will
Mm.
be anathema to vegans and all that stuff, but unfortunately, my makeup is such that, you can't tell how tall I am, but I do need a grounding of meat. I mean, I've tried vegetables and sometimes I'll do tofu and stuff, but it's not enough. I start getting, a little anxious. It's just the way I am. I burn a
Hmm.
lot of energy, so I have to have a little bit of meat on the side of fish. But it's. But I'll tell you one thing: all the stories I've heard about the gods that helped us to where we are, they were all vegetarians, which of course makes you a laughing stock of what I try to teach. We're trying to become gods. Yeah, well, I'm never going to become a god because I eat meat and I eat fish, and the gods were all vegetarians. It's kind of funny.
It's interesting. I didn't realize they were all vegetarians. I didn't know that. It's interesting.
Yeah, I keep hearing about it all over the planet, and it's like,
Mm,
oh, really? Now, they said that in with the Maya as well in South America. So, oh, no, they ate vegetables. They were into non-violence, and
mm,
they basically ate vegetables and drank good water. There you go.
yeah, yeah.
That's all they needed. But their metabolism was probably different to ours. I mean, these people were on a
Mm,
different level of reality and
I
physical.
think
But
so. Yeah. I
yeah,
mean, I think like I know through some of my channelings as well, I've often been shown that during the next 20 years, and partly instigated through this extremism in terms of cost of living and all this kind of stuff, is that we're going to start eating less food altogether.
yeah,
Like, and when we do eat, it's going to be more healthy and sort of like the fruit and the vegetables and a little bit of meat here and there. But we're actually going towards like breatharianism, where we eating is a
yeah.
choice, but we actually know how to manage our energy other ways. And so we don't actually have to eat if we don't need to. Yeah.
Exactly, and I think it's a good idea. I mean, as much as I like eating, reducing the alpaca population in South America, and they are ugly animals. Llamas are a bit nicer, but my God, the meat is pure. There's no fat in alpaca meat. It's the most wonderful thing, but I sit there feeling a bit guilty about it. No, but you're right. It is the way to go. It is the way to go to, reduce our dependence on that, and especially cows. I
Mm.
mean, there's a sort of a dark humor about the world being destroyed by cows and because of hamburgers, especially the world be destroyed by
Right.
hamburgers. And the logic goes that there's more people eating hamburgers, which means you have to have more cows.
Mm.
So to have more cows, you have to cut down the forest to create more pasture. More pasture means more runoff, which means you're eroding the soil. It's losing its vitality, and you've got all the cow fart stuff that's going into the water, which is killing the very thing that we need to drink and keep
Mm.
ourselves alive. So the world will be destroyed by hamburgers. That's the logic. And there is
Yes.
actually some truth to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think moderation is the key in everything. When you think about it, as long as you mix things around a little bit. I mean, I'm down to meat twice a week now, which is great from 7 days.
Mm.
And I've got my fish for a couple. I mean, I live right by the water, so it's like I just go
Right.
fishes, salmon twice a week. So good.
Oh, amazing. Yeah.
No. But
Mm.
and then mix it up with a little bit of tofu here and there, some vegetables and things, and you're doing pretty well. I'm still trying to learn
Mm.
how to cook lentils so I can actually eat them because I've still not found a good lentil recipe that makes me go, again. There's got to be one out there that probably involves curry and God knows what else, and coconut milk. So I'm going to keep striving for that.
I always go to my Hardy
Self-improvement.
conditioner friends for lentil recipes and lentil food, and yeah, they know how to do it really well.
Oh, I hear it. I hear it all the time, and the closest I came to it was in somewhere in Egypt, and it's like, oh, I'll try it, but still not quite right.
Yeah.
It's a work in progress, as are we all, aren't we?
Yeah.
The trick is not to be perfect. The trick is to improve on a daily basis, and then you're okay.
Exactly. I've got our listeners have actually sent in a couple of questions. Can I ask you some? And
Yeah,
if you want
sure.
to pass, you can. But we'll go. Holy of Holies, are they still alive? So the Holy of Holies in Egyptian temples were originally powerful energetic centers. In your view, are these spaces still alive, or do they still hold their original charge, purpose, or consciousness field?
Yeah, every holy of holies that exists everywhere in every planet, every temple around the planet. That's the core, the very seed from which the temple grows. In Egypt, by and large, they're still kind of tottering on. Again, it depends on how much attention they get. Like a Hatshepsut's completely closed down, completely gone. And it was
Right.
done deliberately. People were abusing the sacred sexuality is one of the things that they taught there. And for all the right reasons, by the way. And because I can hear the sniggering in the background. And but it was also abused by the women who were doing it. So because everything gets out of control after a few thousand years, as it does with anything, and that got shut down deliberately. It's the only temple in Egypt where there's nothing. I'm not getting that tingly wingly, kind of disappointing. Impressive
Mm.
temple, but you go there and you go, nothing here. Com Ombo has also lost most of its field because it's been mostly physically destroyed. And when I take my groups there, I make a very conscious effort to get everybody, once I've done my spiel, to go, look, while we're here, let's put a little bit of stuff back into the temple because we've taken so much. And we put a
Mm.
little bit back. And each year when I go back, I feel a little bit of the seeds start to grow a little bit more, but it needs more help. It needs more people to be doing this again and again. Um, let's see, where is it alive? It's very much alive, of course, in the Great Pyramid, in the King's Chamber, depending on how it's been handled or abused. I'll never forget I did 4 tours to Egypt during COVID. I found a way to get out of the country and come back in legally. It required a few obstacles, but we're able to do it. And those tours sold out like this. People were desperate to get out and go out where they weren't wearing, stuff. Because the Arabic mentality is very different. It's about inshallah. This is God wills it. If you live, you live. You die, you die. For them,
Mm.
COVID was just a minor inconvenience. Um, Not to say that there wasn't something happening, there was a very tragic thing that was happening around the world. But I did find that when there was nobody there in Egypt for like 6 months, and we're the only group in Egypt for the first time, I heard the building actually give a sigh of relief. And I went, am I the only person that heard that? And someone else said, I heard that too. I said, the building actually went, oh, thank God. Literally. And you went in, and usually you have to cleanse the room before we could do any work in there because all the pollution and of
Mm.
people's thoughts and all their bullshit, basically. It remembers everything.
Mm.
And for once I thought, oh, I don't have to do anything. Thank, I can actually relax. I can actually just go there and enjoy the building for what it is. So again, it depends on who's been there and who hasn't. The oldest room, a tiny little temple in Karnak is still alive. Not many people realize it's one of the oldest buildings in Karnak. It's the only one that has megalithic masonry, and it's the room attributed to Tutmosis III. Very interesting and shrewd guy, a person who really understood the mysteries. That's still alive,
Mm.
courtesy of the big altar made from basalt. And we always go there, and we're not supposed to be doing anything, no meditation, no meditation. No, no, we just want to feel how warm the stone is. It's amazing how much bullshit you can get through. And then I pay the guard anyway. So that's still very active. The little temple dedicated to Sekhmet is still very active because of the
Mhm.
people, and that I'm not saying that we bribe anyone to go into this unique room, but somehow we find ourselves in there, and people go there for the right reason, and we amplify that energy. So it depends where you're going. It depends which place you're going to, and you can sense which ones are lesser, which ones have a bit more energy about them, and some that have gone by the wayside. But that's true of so many temples around the world now. They
Mm.
keep vanishing. Avery in England is still very much alive. Stonehenge
Mm.
is almost as dead as a door now
Right.
because it's just used as a tourist trap now. It's horrible. I don't even
Mm.
take people there anymore.
And they're
For
waiting for a new one, right, on the crop circle to be built.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, gosh. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
that hasn't happened for quite a while.
No.
And that was one of the things that the crop circles were doing originally before the fakes came around, was that they were charging the currents that they're connecting the crop circles to the local sacred sites. And suddenly you feel
Mm.
this opening of sacred space in, the 23 countries that we found crop circles. And yeah, people suddenly
Mm.
realized something's going on here. Yeah, they were re-energizing the temples, and then we go in there and we continue that whole process. So in
Mm.
England, it was very obvious that, and there are many people there that do the right thing. They'll go to the Long Barrows, the Giants' Graves, and other places like Glastonbury, and they'll go there and do the right thing and energize it. They can sense that
Mhm.
there's an opening, a resurgence of spirit, and they are part of the actual solution. So it's good to have people like that. But
Mm.
again, it depends where you go. It's very much dependent on who's doing what and where.
Yeah. Yeah. And so the next question, still on Egypt, around Saqqara, the Serapeum chambers. So one of the questions is, your research often explores the initiatory and energetic functions of ancient structures. What is your take on the massive underground granite sarcophagi and the Serapeum of Saqqara? Do you believe they served a technological or initiatory purpose rather than a funeral one? I believe. What do you think?
Neither.
Neither, neither.
Wasn't a funerary place, was not a place where you did any work. It was a storage room. And I have a theory on this. Where did I
Mm-hmm.
publish it? It's in my three-part series on Egypt, and I also published it in the Missing Lands. And I gave you the logic behind my thinking. And so far, no one's disagreed with it. So far, so good. And that was 8 years ago. No, but if you actually go to the Serapeum and you've been to the Valley of the Kings and you see how people are actually buried, and with pomp and circumstance, and you've got the whole, the plaster on the walls and all the scenes of the life of the pharaoh and the honoring of the gods and blah blah blah. That's how you bury people.
Mm.
Even dogs are buried like that.
Right.
You go to the Serapeum, and it's just basically someone hacking out the limestone as though they're in a hurry. There's something coming this way that they have to finish this very very quickly. It looks like a storage room. And they bought these. They brought these huge boxes, big lumps of. It's not even granite; it's diorite. It's the hardest rock on the planet, and they bring it in. They fashioned it at the site, and they move it in. And literally, there's hardly any room to move these things, and they are watertight and airtight. And never was there anyone buried inside any of these boxes. There was one burial that was put there in the Greek era, but the box was not built in the Greek era. The box was built over 12,000 years before that. And I can prove
Right.
that we're using the alignment of the actual temple. And My theory was that it was built to protect something of extraordinary value. And there's an old story that was found around the time when Cairo was being built. In the folklore, it said there's a room called inventory where the gods hid incredible things. There was metal that didn't rust, and there was glass that you could bend, and it would bend back to its original shape, and maps that showed
Wow.
parts of the world before the ice came. And I thought, what? So they went looking for the room called inventory. And I don't think the caliph found it, but his son also went looking for it, the inventory room. And I also don't think they've never found one of them, because suddenly there are all these maps going around Europe in the early Middle Ages that showed Antarctica free of ice. Well, that hasn't happened for over 20,000 years. We only know that because of the technology that we have to see through the ice. And that's what the two land masses actually looked like under the ice. There was islands off the coast of the Amazon, which went down after the end of the Ice Age. So that's 11,000 years ago. So
Wow.
who the hell created these maps when supposedly we were still stupid and we couldn't even make a canoe out of a log?
Mm.
Well, the fact is that people had been there and they put this valuable information because they knew what was happening in the sky. That's what the temples are doing. They're prognosticating the movement of objects in the sky. That's why they're obsessed with astronomy. And so my theory about the Serapeum was that they use these enormous watertight boxes to hide things of great value because they're not going to go anywhere.
Mm.
And at the end, because of the alignment of the temple, you can come back at a certain point in time. And it's a very specific date, by the way, which I won't tell you what it is because I won't ruin your enjoyment of the book or the video. But it's just after within 100 years of the Great Flood. So that was about 9,600 BC. They moved the lids, they took out what was there, and boom, vanished, disappeared, never to be seen again. Yeah, because when you go and look at real burials, you know the difference between the two. That's the big
Mm.
clue right there. That's not
Yeah.
anyone that was. In fact, there was the only person that would remotely be the oldest burial in the Serapeum is one of the sons of Ramesses II, and he knew he was never going to be pharaoh. He was like 400th in line. He had a lot of sons and daughters. Ramesses II, and his son, and I forget his name now off the top of my head. He was a restorer of the Serapeum. Okay. So by 1200 BC, he's already restoring the site. And he
Right.
liked it so much, he had himself buried in there. And I know which box it is because it's a lower grade of granite and very easy to work with. It's got his name on it. And sure enough, he was found in there. But to bury a king, a son of a king, in that way, without any murals, without any pomp, without any life of the pharaoh, it's a huge insult.
Mm.
Even laborers were buried with better circumstance than that. So it tells me that the
Right.
guy actually enjoyed being humbled for the restoration work he did to a lot of the temples. But that's the only true burial that was actually in there. Everything else was as a storage room. So
Mm.
yeah, you got to think of the Serapeum in a completely different way.
Okay, that's really
Still
interesting.
impressive though.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like it. The next question is actually around the lids on the stone boxes, which you've kind of mentioned a little bit. So, the question is the lids on these stone boxes weigh many tons. What kind of technology or engineering sophistication
Ah,
would have been required to move them with such precision? So, you've kind of talked a little bit about that, but maybe go a bit further into it.
I've heard a couple of theories. One was that the Egyptians had access to monatomic gold in the Sinai. There was a quarry there, it's still there. And monatomic gold has been proved to have weight defying qualities. So if you put it on a scale, it actually weighs less when you after you've taken it out of the ground and before it is on the ground. So it actually creates, when it touches an object, it removes the density of the object with which it interacts. And I thought, okay, but that would take a lot of powder for a box that's 400 tons. It would be something else. And when you go into the Serapeum, you recognize how little room there is to maneuver anything, even a gantry. Yeah, you just can't do it. You have to be very, very subtle. If you make a mistake, it's not like you can go around the corner and put it back the way you wanted it. I'm a big fan of sound because there's so many stories in Egypt, South America, Sumeria, India that talk about how they used to use the ability to look at an object and figure out the actual resonance of the object because back then people, the gods, were connected to the laws of nature. That's what makes you a god. You understand the rules of nature and you can bend the rules. So by looking and listening to a lump of rock, you can go, I can hear the frequency of the stone as being the note A. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And a minus seven sharp fifth. And so all you have to do is do the counter note to that by either toning or using those metal rods that the Egyptians had, which you can see in the museum. They're all tuned to specific musical notes. They were used for healing and for doing other things. And there have been these small frescoes that I found around Karnak that shows the priests around these stones with these rods. And I thought, were they using these as tuning forks? You can hit the stone, and it turns the electrical field, magnetic field, opposite to what it was before they tapped the stone. Because we can do this at school. There was an experiment that was done in science class where you take a block of material and you tap it with an iron rod, and the polarity of the molecules goes this way. You see, you're moving
Yeah.
the energy field around. It's a very simple experiment. And I said, well, the same would apply to this because there's so much magnetite in the stones. So they're essentially very large magnets, weak but very large magnets. So if you know the actual resonance of the block of stone and you can hear it, you can take these rods, tap them, and you can do the inverse. And at that point, because all these places are linked by the fact that they're sitting on the Earth's magnetic currents, well, now you've got a conveyor belt upon which you can float the rock, and the child can literally push the damn thing there. It would be crazy until I heard this story in Sumeria, in India, in Japan, and in South America, and in Central America. And these
Mm-hmm.
people allegedly never spoke to each other. Well, how do they have the same story of
Mm.
these places being built literally in the blink of an eye, overnight, to the sound of musical instruments or vocal commands? And the one in South America, near Lake Titicaca, they talk about the Huari, a group of people that actually were used to move the stones through the air, boom, and they built Tiwanaku in the blink of an eye. Well, Huari are not a people. It's actually the name of a type of flute that's still played to this very day in Samoa and Tonga. Yeah, a
Wow.
Huaro. It's an actual musical instrument.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the trick is to go and hang out with the Tongans and the Samoans and find out. Tell me about levitating stones. Bring out this flute, and yeah, boom. So that's what they were talking about. And I'm a big proponent of that because there was back in the 80s, Princeton University, they actually looked at this mumbo jumbo and they took a little bit of the type of quartz used in temple building, specific
Mm.
type of quartz, and they put it into a vacuum chamber and they began to throw sound and change the amplitude and so forth. And they found, after trial and error, when they got the right amplitude, the right sound, the the piece of quartz actually begins to rise above the actual surface, and it sits there.
Wow.
And there was a video on their website for quite some time. I don't know if it's still there. That was like back in the late 90s. So we now have an inkling that, yeah, sound and vibration can actually be able to be used as an anti-gravity device. So I'm a
Mm.
great fan of that theory.
Oh, that's so fascinating. And, you know, it reminds me of alchemy too, because monatomic gold is often thought that if you can have a little bit in your own body and you know how to go allow it to supercharge itself through the vortex of your heart,
Oh,
then there's a way of doing levitation. And it just, anyway, it's fascinating because I mean, that's our own bodies, but you talk about it kind of like in the technologies of moving stone a little bit as well. So I'm like, oh,
yeah.
okay, need to look into that.
Next will be a weight loss regimen. Monotonic gold for weight loss. None of those little shots that you have, no side effects. Oh, and you get to see stuff as well.
Yeah,
That would
yeah,
be kind of cool. Isn't it? It'll have a little sort of powder of snuff with some monatomic gold. Ah, oh, look at that, £10 gone in no time.
yeah. With the price of gold these days, it would cost you a mint as well, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, there is that problem. Yeah, but I know where to get it from in Sinai. You just have to go there and climb a 3,000 foot mountain and
Easy.
get it for yourself.
Yeah.
At least you used to be able to anyway before this got out. So I'm sure they've been taking it away.
All right. So the next question. Some travelers describe each chamber as having its own unique resonance pattern, almost like a dimensional signature. Do you see these chambers as possible consciousness altering environments or access points for multidimensional states? And do you think these chambers were built for a specific type of beings only, or for humans or just non-humans by those who are engaging in interdimensional work?
Wow, they really thought about that question. What was the name of the
Okay.
site? I didn't pick up the name of the site.
They this is kind of under the Sakara kind of,
Oh, Sakara.
yeah.
Okay. It depends on the chamber. They're all used for different reasons. You've got to be very careful not to generalize. There is one place, which is the Pyramid of Unas, even though I believe it may have been built before his time because Unas is buried 400 miles away in the Valley of the Kings. So ergo, he can't be buried in his own pyramid because he's buried somewhere else.
Right.
But if you read the actual inscriptions and the whole wall of the interior passages is like wallpaper, it tells you exactly what was used for, and that was for leaving the body, disappearing, hanging out in the underworld, having a little chat with the gods, learning some important things, and then you're expected to come back into your living body and carry on leading a very nice life. So that was used for initiation, absolutely. But we've got evidence to back that up. It's on the wall. You have to read what it's trying to tell you. There are other places that we use for going from A to B, and that actually comes from our friends, the Waitaha grandmothers. I didn't see that one coming because they talk very intimately about the relationship between the gods and Orion and the belt stars of Orion specifically,
Mm.
and how each kete, each basket of knowledge in the Waitaha tribe, represents each of the stars in the belt of Orion. Well, each one of those is also referenced in the Giza Plateau, as we now know. So we have the star Mintaka, and the other two stars, which reference the small pyramid, the middle pyramid, and the great pyramid. And in the grandmother's tradition, the kete of knowledge that represents the wisdom keepers and the people who do the visualization of the tribe references the king's chamber in the Great Pyramid. And I've never heard this idea of leaving the body and going astral traveling being done in the small pyramid or the middle pyramid. Those are for two completely different reasons. And the Waitaha grandmothers were very good about this. So I'm glad I stumbled upon that teaching because I
Mm.
suddenly realized, well, yeah, because the dimensions of the chamber act and behave and feel like no other chamber in any other pyramid. Now, if you go down to the bent pyramid or the red pyramid, completely different purpose, different geometry, different acoustics, different environment, different construction method. The red pyramid was used for healing, apparently, and the one in the bent pyramid, which is keeping its secrets close to its chest, is my favorite pyramid. But I feel like it's a place of completion, place of perfection. And in fact, the geometry that's hidden between that pyramid and its attendant pyramid actually do demonstrate that very clearly. That was one of those aha moments that came to me when I was trying to
Mm.
put the documentary together. So each place is designed for completely different reasons, and you can either feel it And if you don't trust your gut feeling, then you do it like me. You spend 15 years researching each one of these and figuring out which one is which. So it does take effort. So yeah, you can't generalize. It depends on the purpose for which it was built.
Mm. Gosh, I found that really interesting. A lot of people ask me, like with the consciousness coaching that I do, about out of body experiencing and astral travel, and they want to learn how to do those states at will. And part of it is creating an energetic temple,
Yeah.
within a room. And but I'm now fascinated and going to kind of look into this more around actual what physical things can you have around you to aid in this process, because yeah, I find that really fascinating.
I mean, it's basically the manipulation of electromagnetic energy, which is the currents that move around, which anybody can move in 5 seconds. It's not that difficult. The trick is
Mm,
to keeping it there because it'll just move. Because
mm,
the core of the Earth spins, you're attracted by the moon and the sun and so forth. And people's thought patterns as well will move the energy. The stone, the choice of stone is what anchors the stone to the ground, you see. Depending on
mm,
what your purpose is, you choose a stone to accommodate the purpose for which you create the temple. So there are stones for feminine energy, some for masculine energy, some for balance. And then the geometry and shape of the room, the way you align things, the way you put the stones in a certain geometric shape, that
mm,
also creates that environment. So yeah, no, it can be done, and a lot better than doing drugs. This whole ayahuasca thing, and yeah, it's great, and it helps some people with their issues. It's really useful, but a lot of the imagery doesn't come from the experience. It comes from the chemistry between the drug and your brain. So a
mm,
lot of it is actually self-generated. But again, it's useful under certain conditions. But from what every shaman tells me that I've asked, usually in Central America, they'll say, well, it's an approximation of the real thing. I mean, to do it properly, you have to actually give us between 8 months to 3 years of your life because you got to prepare mentally and emotionally.
mm,
You got to learn to control emotion. You go if you leave the body and you take your baggage with you, you're not coming back, and it's going to have a pretty bad trip.
yeah,
And the trick is that you learn to control fear. The biggest thing of all, learning to control fear.
exactly.
You are in
Yeah.
control, and then you take a poison slowly over the course of a day, and you slowly have an induced near-death experience. So you really got to know the person that's looking out for you. There are shaman, and then there are idiots who just want to make money. You got to have the discernment to know the difference between one and the other, because it is dangerous. I mean, you are inducing yourself to literally leave the body, and your heart is beating, one time every minute. That can be very dangerous. You get that mixture wrong, you're dead. And that was something that was very important. So that's one way of doing it. Or you can learn Kriya Yoga. That's the one thing that I've been told again and again, that you become the temple. You are the temple anyway. You don't need external stuff. It's just
Mm,
it's just for us Taurians. We need to sort of lick, look, touch, eat, prod. That's the way we are.
yeah.
But the inner temple, you've got everything there anyway. So if you learn to go within and learn to move the geometry that's moving around your body right now, yeah, you can go astral traveling and disappear. And some people in India still do it to this very day, and they'll be there for like a year. This is what I find incredible. They'll be sitting there cross-legged for a year, in this perfect lotus position, and they're literally gone out of their body. They've left their body, and they'll come back a year later and they go, "Oh, that was a great trip." They've lost weight, of course, but because they've slowed down their metabolism, they're not dead. They're just very thin,
Mm.
and the first thing they'll say is like, "I'm hungry." So there is that practice as well. I'm sure there's plenty other mystical practices that
Mm,
get you there. There was one that was still being practiced in Fiji up until, at least documented as being practiced in Fiji up until 100 years ago, up in the hills, because they don't trust white people. And I don't blame them either, what we did to them. So if you go into deep places in the middle of nowhere, there's still people who are still practicing this. And using the very body and the chemicals in drugs and poisons in order to get you to have that connection and that experience. But again, you got to use discernment, find out who's doing what and where and how to have
mm,
a valid experience. But you've really got to know what you're doing. You've got
yeah.
to be able to trust the person who's behind it. Otherwise, well, hope you enjoy the trip on Earth because you're done.
Yeah, that's the thing. That having a guardian, someone that you can trust, actually watch over you for the entire process is absolutely important, and the preparation. But we can do it organically. We don't need to have, the poisons or the psychedelics or anything like that. And there's a lot of modern day research going into out of body experiencing and astral traveling. The first research being done between 3 universities now, seeing if there's a place for it in our modern psychology, which is quite interesting as a way of removing fear of death and therefore living a more fuller life, is the kind of premise behind it.
Yeah.
But
It
within that,
depends who you are.
what's that?
It depends on your particular makeup as well. I mean, I like
Mm.
to use music to leave the body. I mean, I've done it several times, quite unconsciously. I didn't go to these places to have an experience, but I was brought back because apparently I was meant to write about it. I didn't realize that was the what was going on at the time. I thought that was a weird experience. I didn't realize I was going to be used to. I feel so used. I was going to be used to write about this stuff. But it's true. I didn't do it voluntarily or because I was looking for this. It happened because of a natural process, and I'm still processing information. It was,
Mm.
I mean, I'm not allowed to go into the box in the King's Chamber because I liked it too much. And
Right.
given the choice to go out, leave, I am staying exactly where I'm going because I liked it too much over there. It was
Mhm.
wonderful, but I got a job to do, so there's no way I can do it. So my other way of getting around that is to use music. That's my drug. And I can put myself in any state I want just by going into the all these albums here and going, oh, I think I need to calm down today and connect with myself. And an hour later, it's like, oh, that was nice. The power of vibration and sound is so wonderful.
Yeah.
Even just listening to some old Joni Mitchell from the '70s, it's like an hour goes by and you think, that's great music. And I feel completely different. I feel a completely different person. So, but it depends who you are. It's not for everybody. Some people going to a rave and a disco, yeah, that's for them. They'll come out and they'll get it out of their system. I mean, and I get that. I
Yeah.
used to be hard rock. I used to like my concerts. And I used to come out, fully charged after a good concert. You let go of so much anger and angst, and you feel like, yes, I want to hug and kiss everyone, you know.
Whatever gets you into that trance state, right? That rhythm, that way to lose yourself and actually escape linear time and collapse the whole time space kind of
Exactly.
continuum. Yeah.
Yeah, Uriah Heep is pretty good for that, actually. If you look at a lot of early Uriah Heep, there's a lot of repeating notes and phrases. It's almost like they're doing this trance thing. Yeah, that's why some of their songs went for 14 minutes. There's a reason behind that, and you
Mm-hmm.
find yourself literally. And I was actually their photographer for a couple of tours in London, and I found myself getting myself into this wonderful state where suddenly you go, oh, I should be clapping now because I come back into the body. But yeah, part of it is to get yourself into that sort of almost Indian raga phrase. And that's what Indian music actually does for you. That
Mm-hmm.
drone is part of the actual process. Yeah.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
all coming back to me now.
Awesome. All right. So another question, if we've got time. This is around
I've
portals.
got
This is
plenty of
from
time.
cool.
I've got nothing to do today.
So it's around portals, and she's thinking of the location of Isis temple and the Syrian connections associated. So she says that while she was visiting, she felt strong Syrian, whale, and merbeing presences near the old temple of Isis and sensed a portal at the gate. Many people report similar experiences. From your research, what do you think is happening at these portals and where do you think they lead? And more broadly, what do you believe the function of the Egyptian portals was? Like astronomical, energetic, initiatory, or are they literal gateways for interdimensional contact?
Um, I should go back. I go back to the answer I did before. It depends on the temple.
Yeah.
I'd be very careful about places where suddenly you sort of getting into a Syrian or Arcturian energy. Sometimes it comes from wanting that to happen. It's you want it so much that that's what you're going to get, and sometimes it works. Sometimes it's psychosomatic. It
Mm.
depends where you are on the range of connecting. Some people want something so much that they'll make up the stuff from their own head. That's not going to do you any good. You got to be honest with yourself when you go to these places. And I usually tell people, well, don't expect anything. Expectation is like the handmaiden of desire. You're going to get exactly what you requested, and it's coming from your own head. It doesn't do you any good. Go there and expect nothing. And if it comes through and it's undeniably, if you get an undeniable energy that says, look, I am a Syrian energy, then that's true. That's the real thing. There
Mm.
are some spots around the world which are specific places which are portals into another reality. And I'm sworn to secrecy as to which one they are so they don't get abused. literally for that reason alone. There are places in England which are places where the watchers come through. Okay, specifically only the watchers. Other places are just places where the veil is very thin between worlds. Anything can come through, and that's where the intention comes in. So let's say I want to go to, since we're still in Egypt, I don't know why. Let's say you want to go to, what's a good place to hang out where not many people go in the morning? Um, there is a temple, and not many people go there. It's at Medinet Habu. It's on the west side of Luxor. People go to the big temple of Tutmosis III. There's nothing there. It's just a big mass dedicated to the ego of Tutmosis III. Sorry, Tutmosis IV, beg your pardon. And so there's a little temple just when you go in and you look at it and you go, oh, it's too small. I'm going to keep going. It's the small things that matter. And you pay the guards and you let them leave you alone in there. It's one of the oldest places on the planet. Okay, the original gods of Egypt are actually buried under there, and you know there's some age there, and that is a place where you literally go in with the intention of connecting with the origin of the builders of Egypt or anyone else related to that concept, and you go there with the intention, and your energy as an intention opens up its own energy field, connects with the energy field of the site, and then there's a link between you and that portal. So it's not a physical portal, it's an energetic portal. And your intention drives the direction of the energy to get you to that location anywhere in the universe. So that's another way of looking at it as well. And some of them are actually physical portals. There's a place called Amuru Muru. It's a big T-shaped doorway that's been carved out of a big sandstone cliff on the edge of the Titicaca. Of course, back then, Titicaca was right on the actual edge of the portal because it keeps disappearing because of, they're not getting much rainfall up there. But back in the day, you'd go there by boat, you get off, and you go into the portal, you do your preparation in the morning, and then, boom, you physically go in through the actual portal. And I know this is still going on because when Edgar, my Aymara guide, is there with me, and I'm looking at him and I'm sensing him, and he's a shaman, so he knows what happens, and he does the right thing. And I'm sensing him, and I'm going, yeah, I'm sensing it too. We've come here at late afternoon. Not a good time to be here not because it's bad, but the energy is much darker. There's something sucking you right in. And I thought, you know what? Bit difficult to lead a tour when your two guides are sucked into some place that is not on Earth. And he looks at me like, we'll come back in the morning.
Oh.
And you come back in the morning, completely different energy. But I said, but in order to talk about this, I just want to put my head on the actual portal itself. And it's like watching a red laser going through my head. And I went, okay, that's all I need to know. Thank you very much. And I'm finding myself getting sucked in. Only a week before that, I heard on good account there was another group there, and one of the people in the group was doing this meditation in the actual doorway without knowing what the hell he was doing. He got physically sucked in, and he appeared 3 days later,
Oh my
completely
gosh.
out of. I mean, literally, he was in shock. They had to file a
Wow.
police report because a person was missing.
Gosh.
15 people went to the hotel, and 14 came back, and you got to account for the fact that one of the people is missing. It's a very bureaucratic country. So they had to file a police report for a missing person. And he came back, and they found him exactly where they left him 3 days earlier, in shock. I mean, it took him a while to sort of get back into the body and work out what just happened. Yeah, that
Mm,
one's still very active. So you've got to treat this with respect. So when
mm,
you feel a certain energy that you're approaching a site, and you're getting that kick in your gut that says, thou shalt come no further, to our friends of Lord of the Rings, then obey that, because the temple is telling you this is not meant for you. This is meant for something else. It's meant for energy to move from A to B, and you're not part of that process.
mm.
So we're making you feel uncomfortable to let you know that this is not for you. Go to the temple down the road. There you'll feel as giddy as a schoolboy. Here, not happening. So it's important to figure out what's what and which is which, just by using the discernment of your gut feeling, and then that will be your best guide.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. All right. Well, let's move into Lake Titicaca since we're already
Oh,
there.
Lady Titicaca. The Waitaha elders also talk about Lady Titicaca
I
in a
can
roundabout
imagine.
way. That's when I figured out who the Urukeu gods were, when they talked about how the Urukeu, who intermarried with the Waitaha later, This is the end of the Ice Age, so we're talking 12,000 years ago. He said, yeah,
Mm.
when the Urukeu had gone to the birthplace of the gods in the Tafiti, and they had to go back to their point of origin in South America or wherever it was, we didn't know where it was. And they said they took two totem birds with them. And I thought, oh, that's good. They took two little birds. Well, two parrots. No, one was called Titi, one was called Kaka.
Ah.
And I thought, my God. So they were going from Lake Titicaca to Easter Island to the birthplace of the gods and back to Lake Titicaca. Well, yeah, that's how the current works. That makes perfect sense. And I thought, well, what are the birds? No one knows what the birds are. It's lost to time. I said, well, but if you go to Japan, and there are overlaps between Waitaha language and Japanese, believe it or not, Titi and Kaka basically is grandmother and grandfather. So it's a place
Wow.
of ancestors. It's the lake of Titicaca is the lake of ancestors. And that makes absolute sense because it's one of the
Yeah.
oldest temples in the world there. It's Tiwanaku, which is the foundation of the word Te Wanaka, which is a town in the South Island of New Zealand.
It is. Yes,
There's a link
yes.
between the two. And so that temple is over 15,000 years old, one of the oldest temples on the face of the earth. So, yeah, very important. Anyway, what was the question?
Well, I feel like you're a little psychic or something because you're kind of answering the questions before I read them.
My God,
So,
my powers have doubled since you last spoke.
so one of the questions are there's kind of like three, but I'll read them all at once. Um, what can he tell you about Taniwanakau, which you just Tawanakau? So that's how you pronounce it. Is that how what you just said? I've just said the
Tiwanaku.
wrong. Thank you. I should have practiced my pronunciation.
Well, they
And
keep changing the spelling, which makes it difficult for people, you see.
oh,
You
do
actually
they?
got to go there and go, because it's now Tiwanaku, and it's written in a very different way. But if you talk to the Aymara, who were there originally with Viracocha, and my guide is Aymara, I said, so is there an original version of this? It's Tiwanaku. And it's like, oh, so Tiwanaku. So aku is a syllable in
Mm.
Aymara. No, it's not. But it is an Egyptian because what does it mean? It means shining people, the shining ones. Oh, well, that was the nickname of the gods that were here, the shining ones. So you're telling me that Tiwanaku is the city of my shining people? I said, yes, bingo.
Oh my gosh, the links, it's amazing. Yeah, because this person also talks about the shining ones in Tiwanaku. Okay. All right.
But anyway,
So, and can you say anything about the island of Koha or the temple on the island of the moon? And do you know anything about the town called Curva, the little town in the Andes where there is a portal nearby?
good God, do I look like I know everything? Um, I
And
don't
another question
know.
around the elongated skulls, if you want to throw that into that mix somehow.
Oh, wow. The island of the sun and the moon, they keep their secrets very close to their chest. And the only temples that are there are actually Inca. So they're very recent. That does not mean that there was something there before that and no one knows. So I'm going to have to say I just don't know because we have no more information to go on. The Aymara probably would know, but I haven't been back there in quite a while to ask them these questions because I didn't know what to ask at the time. But the town of, I didn't catch the name, Kola.
Curva, so Curva.
I'm not familiar with that town at all.
No.
Yes, I have to plead ignorance on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's right. And then you've talked a little bit about Tenawaku. I think I'm getting better. And anything about the elongated skulls?
Yeah, they're elongated. And it's funny because if you go to the museum in Cusco and you can see the two versions side by side, you've got elongated skulls and you've got cone heads. Now, what happened was that one of the distinguishing features of the gods, including the Urukeu, by the way, was that had these elongated skulls, which look very unusual when you see them. And you go, that's weird. But you know what? There's something elegant about them. It's natural, but it's just weird. And they had red hair as well. So the
Mm.
Urukeu had the red hair and the elongated skulls as well. And I think one of their nicknames was actually Shining Ones too. So they may have been the same people that we're looking for in South America that were in New Zealand and Easter Island. But when you go to the cabinet next door, there's this cone head. Now, what happened was when the mothers looked at the gods and said, you know what, why don't we just stop scratching for a living? And if I tie and bind the head of my baby, over time, the head will start looking like the heads of the gods, so that I can marry off my daughter to a higher class of people. They don't have to scratch for a living, and they become as a god because they'll be treated
Wow.
differently. The
Hmm.
problem is that it looked ridiculous. They literally looked like conehead. It looked terrible. But it was still happening in Bulgaria, in Europe, in the early Middle Ages. There were treaty brides that had their skulls shaped from a young age in order to make them look like the gods, and they'll be palmed off to princes and kings to continue this crazy bloodline that was going on there, because by then everybody's so intermarried, there was no such thing as a divine bloodline anymore. But that's
Mm.
why it was done, to make you look like the gods. But here's the big difference: you can change the shape of your skull, especially if you start off as a baby, but you
Mm.
can't change the cubic capacity of the actual cranium. That stays forever. So it's been found. This was something that was published about 8 years ago, I believe. They found that the cranial capacity of the true elongated head is something like 28% greater than a human skull. So they're obviously genetically different to us, which of course
Oh,
they would be.
wow.
And they've
Yeah.
done they did a DNA test on the skull, and they found that they are traced to Mesopotamia and Egypt and Armenia. Isn't that
Interesting.
interesting?
Yeah.
And the Waitaha also originally came from Armenia. Not a lot of people know that. Long time
Mm.
ago, they came via the land bridge via Hokkaido. Some of them are living there as the Ainu, and then they came down to Easter Island and then New Zealand.
Mm.
So that's not been published yet. So don't spread it around too much.
No, it's so interesting. I've got an Armenian friend, and they always sort of joke about saying they're the origin point of the world.
There's one of them. Oh, absolutely. It's one of the origin points. Very important. That's why I want to go back there. I think
Mm.
the fighting is stopped now. They stopped being invaded by Azerbaijan, so there's a chance that I'm not going to be shelled when I go to look at stuff. But most of the important stuff is now in Turkey, unfortunately. So there's
Mm.
not much of Armenia left, but it is. I do believe it's one of the origin points of the gods. Not
Mm.
the, but certainly a very important one in terms of the Western way of looking at things. Because there are other
Mm.
places around the world. These people all lived on islands or places that
Mm.
behaved like islands. So Tiwanaku was an island city, a temple city that lived as an island in the middle of Lake Titicaca back in the day.
Mm. Mm.
The birthplace of the gods in New Zealand, Kuratawhiti, if you're a geologist, you'll see that when you're standing on top of the ridge and you look down into the valley, and you've got basically the second site, which looks like this big, massive of limestone that looks like a big UFO that's shaped like a bowling ball landed on it. It's an incredible
Mm.
place. Takes a whole day just to get there and back. Didn't find anything when I was there, though, so I'm not ready for it yet. But I was very much aware that if you look at it, the actual landscape around it, when there was an ice dam, and certainly a lot more ice than there is today, that it behaved also like an island. That is the birthplace of the gods in New Zealand.
Mm.
Where else? And also up in Armenia, there's one of the rivers there outside of Yerevan. I've just discovered that also once behaved like an island, and it was a huge metallurgic center there, and it had the greatest number of sacred sites anywhere on the planet back in the day. So I suspect that's where the Anunnaki used to live, the people of
Ah.
Anu. Yeah, so yeah,
Ah.
just it's a hypothesis. I have to go there and do some more digging around.
Yeah. Gosh, well, I love also that there's like water is a significant part surrounding, all these kind of like birthplaces and the energy of it.
Exactly. And the
Yeah.
point was that if you read the Egyptian creation myth, which is echoed in other places around the world, but theirs is more still full, as opposed to other writings. These are still on the walls of the temples. They talk about the creation as being the universe created out of the chaos of the waters. So the
Mm.
island of the primordial mound rises like a pregnant belly out of the waters of chaos, which is how to describe the universe. And they said, and then the mound is impregnated by Creator God, and there's a perch upon which stands the bird, and the bird of creation, which becomes the dove, the white dove, the symbol of John the Baptist, thousands of years later. And from that point on, the temple perimeter is established. So the temple is a mirror image of the creation itself. So if the gods were following the blueprint of creation, yeah, they would have lived on places that look like islands that behave and mimic as a metaphor and as an allegory the island of creation itself. And even all the temples in Egypt on the Nile, they were all originally islands with temples standing on top of them. But now as the
Wow.
Nile keeps moving, they're now no longer there. Edfu was an island. You can still see the Nilometer on the side, but now you have to take a horse carriage, 10-minute ride just to get near the temple. That's how far things move. So
Gosh.
it all makes sense, you know. It's as above, so below. The temple
Mm.
is mirrored as a mirror of creation. It has to be perfect. Yeah, pretty cool.
Oh, I find that so fascinating. And, earlier we were talking around, like modern temples being started to be built again, in our modern age. And I
Yeah.
know recently I was over in California at Joshua Tree National Park, and close to that is what I consider to be a modern temple. It's not called a temple, it's the Integratron, which is a piece of architecture that's inspired by the Venusians and built
Is
in
it
the,
round?
yes, yes, it
Oh, I know it.
is.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And when I turned up there and I went inside to do, receive a sound healing that they offer in there. But when I was in there, I was like, where's the water? I can feel the water, but you can't see any water. But I'm like, I can
Underground.
I can feel it. And then I asked them, they go, oh yeah, there's a ginormous aquifer right underneath the
Exactly.
integratron and it's really close to the surface. I was like, oh, and it all makes sense because it's like a temple being built on the top of the water, even though you
Yeah.
can't see it. It's just underground and it's massive and it's beautiful water. Like the frequency of the water is incredible. And then the Integratron is designed in its architecture to around time travel, to manipulate time in positive ways. And when you're in there, you can certainly feel it. And there's this one central point that if you stand on it, they say before you stand on it, you must be very, very aware of what you're thinking, and you can say something out loud, but make sure you've thought about it because it's going to get amplified
Exactly.
and come back big
I
time.
get what you asked for.
Yeah, yeah. And when you do stand on this little platform, I've got no idea about how um, George Tessel, who created it, did it because it's brilliant. But you stand on it and you say something and you hear it vibrate and resonate, all comes back at you through your cells. But people around you cannot hear you, but to you, you're really loud. So somehow he's very clever. Anyway, it's incredible. Blew my mind, and but it reminds me a lot of what you've talked about with the ancient temples, and yet this is a pretty modern one. Only really half a century
Yeah.
old. Mm.
I remember Bourdain, Anthony Bourdain, one of my heroes actually, and a great writer. He went there, and he's a skeptic. He's a real guy. You know, everything's very, black and white. He's not incredibly spiritual or anything. Big meat eater. And I remember in an episode, he actually went there with, I think he was the lead singer of the Queens of the Stone Age, and
Mm.
you can see in the film he's having a spiritual experience. When he left, he does not look like the same person. He's like, wow. I mean, he left quiet, and you can see in the look in his eyes that something's happened to him. So yeah, no, I should put that on my list. That'd be a good place to go for the winter.
Yes,
Nevada, the middle
yes,
of the desert. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah.
only a 7 day drive from here, so I need to take my car for a test drive. No, it is an interesting thing, though. Very
Yeah.
interesting place. Yeah, I'm glad you reminded me of that.
Yeah, do put it on your
Wow.
checklist. It's very worthwhile. Now, you've mentioned something I
Damn, you
want to
should have
ask
sent
you
me an
about.
email. I would have met you there.
Okay. Now, talking of cars, look, we spoke this time last year because we love to talk on the solstice and around that time. But last year there was quite a different vibe and feeling around your car, and I think the whole world loved your Mini Cooper.
I know
But
my world fell apart.
yes, yes. So, how are you going with the new car? And have you had some good adventures in it?
Gosh, I haven't picked up so many speeding tickets yet. Yeah, no, yeah, last year, around about this time, 31st of January, and my glorious Mini Cooper, my 2004 Mini, was involved in a head-on collision with the representative from my insurance company, my car insurance company. Talk
Really?
about irony. I just went out to
Wow.
celebrate 21 years of being on the road. My little buddy. And no, it's funny because now whenever I take my new car out, exactly the same car that got totaled is in front of me, literally a block from my house. So there's a couple of people here who
Really?
drive exactly the same car, and I thought, stop it, it's really pissing me off. And I start getting all teary-eyed and emotional. Yeah, I
Yeah.
do miss it a lot, but no, I now drive a Volkswagen Golf GTI, and My fifth one, by the way, because those cars are indestructible and they're very reliable. And I get 36 miles to the gallon. Unbelievable for a sports car.
Hmm.
And my God, it's bloody fast. It makes my mini, a supercharged mini, look like it's going backwards. And I thought, my God, I'm in second gear. I'm already way over the speed limit. Oh, I'm having fun. Yeah. And now for the last month, because I haven't been on the plane, I can actually get to enjoy it finally. And it's, yeah, I've been going around doing some silly things and doing pointless trips just to get on the road and tell people, just to see people going past me at 95 miles per hour, which is some, I don't know how it is in kilometers, but it's very fast. And
Oh,
uh,
sounds like what, 160, 170 kilometers. Oh, I'm not sure, but it's a lot. Maybe
it's
one. Yeah. Yeah.
lovely. And the trick around here is you find what we call a volunteer, some idiot who doesn't realize that the police are everywhere, especially in places where you know, like you're coming around the corner, they're going to be there because you can't break in time. You wait for a volunteer, give them a quarter of a mile, then you just tag on behind them, and the flashing lights get them, and you have time to sit down and behave and go, yeah, no, it's great fun. Once in a while, you got to get down to basic things like cars and
Yeah.
put the foot down and get it out of your system. It is. It's a good car, but 36 miles to the gallon. I have a rule. I'm waiting for hydrogen powered vehicles to finally hit the market, and BMW and Toyota are bringing them out already. They are
Yeah.
the best thing. Hydrogen is the best thing, and it's dead safe. Don't worry what people tell you about it. It is safer than petrol, and they're also much better for the world than the electric cars because it was like uh, trying to get around not being reliant on fossil fuels, which is a great idea. I totally agree with it. The problem is it creates more problems than it solves. And the lithium, the mining of lithium, which is as bad, if not as worse than getting oil, the transportation of it, the fact that you have batteries that then you have to throw away every, what, 5, 6, 7 years? And then it costs you more than the price of the car to put a new battery back into the car. So you have to trash the car. The wear and tear on the road because the cars are heavier, the wear and tear on tires because you wear out tires more with an electric car because it's heavier. The only good thing about electric vehicles is they're quiet and they what's the other one? Oh yes, they don't pollute. You get fresh air, so that's two good things. But after that, no, I'm waiting for that. But at 36 miles to the gallon with a sports car, I feel good about that.
Well, I like
But
the idea of hydrogen. I mean, seawater is going to save the world, but in regards
absolutely,
to,
yes.
yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, I was looking at
and
the
in regards,
research and
yeah.
they said no, with a BMW, and they actually look good too. And like most electric cars, it's like, I'm not paying 50 grand for that piece of garbage. Although the new Prius, I have to say, I was in Boulder doing some filming and I went past this car. I said, wow, this is like a new Italian sports car. Good lines. Oh, it's a Prius. For once, the
Oh,
words sexy and Prius have been used together. Never been
wow.
happened before. They actually look really nice.
Okay.
Inside, you're still driving a laptop. There's no
Right.
emotion on the inside. I wish they would fix that. Otherwise, I'd buy it. But it's still got the same problem. It's got a big battery. It's electrical, and it's not going to go anywhere. So,
No.
but they are coming up with some nice looking hydrogen powered vehicles. I think that is the future, or
Mm.
or magnetic levitation, even better.
Oh,
You
I
know.
like the idea of that. I remember living
Oh,
in Australia and they were talking about doing trains from Melbourne to Sydney. And I was like, it's got to
I
be
know.
magnet. It's got to be.
The Japanese have nailed that perfectly.
Mm,
In France, it's not maglev yet, but they're close to it, and they're doing what 300 miles per hour. I love taking the train from Paris to the coast because you're there in no time. Dead quiet, fresh croissant, good coffee. You're not
mm.
allowed to be on your phone. You can just read a book on the train. Okay, even if you're on your laptop, people look at you like, "Qu'est-ce que c'est là?" And you don't want to annoy the French. They have words for you.
Yeah.
So no, I love it. I love traveling by train. You get so much work done, very relaxing, and the French and the Japanese have got that down to a fine art. So yeah,
You went to a really fancy old estate to do a lecture.
an old estate. No, I went to Amsterdam to go to the Embassy of the Free Mind.
Okay.
That was great. I mean, I liked Amsterdam a lot. Everybody,
Yeah.
you can either walk to work, bicycle to work, or kayak to work. And I thought, wow, it's very flat, which unfortunately for me is kind of frustrating. And the weather's usually miserable. It's more miserable than London. It's usually grey, but
Wow.
great camaraderie. I mean, it was very communally based, a lot of great ideas. The Dutch have some really great environmental ideas, so kudos to them. And I also went to Ibiza to do a presentation there. big workshop with lots of other interesting people. That was fun.
Hmm.
Right next to a nudist beach. Concentration was lacking. Don't know why. Uh, there's nothing like taking your clothes off and going to the ocean.
Yeah.
I think I might have spoken twice as fast just so I can get some time off and go and play, which I did do actually, by the way. So hopefully
Yeah.
there are no photographs, incriminating photographs anyway. But no, those are the two big things. I wasn't expecting that one. It was a late request to go back to Europe. I just came back from Europe. I got the plane right back. So I missed the whole foliage season here. I was looking forward to getting on with the foliage
Oh.
because that is one of the beauties of being here in Maine is sort of late September, October.
Mm.
It's like you just drop the LSD into your eyes and all the colors are bright red or orange. It's quite amazing.
Yeah.
But no, apart from that, that's about the highlight, I think, of the last couple of months. Going off to the Embassy of the Free Mind and sitting there in one of their libraries, which has they're trying to basically collect all books on knowledge and wisdom going back over 2,000 years. And I
Wow.
was actually able to touch and sniff right up close alchemical books in German, which are over 1,200 years old. I'm going, just lock the door on your way out. Leave me in here. It's a bit like being stuck inside the toy store. The
Hmm.
dreams you used to fantasize about when you're
Hmm.
younger. You're locked inside Hamleys or somewhere, and they come back in the morning and you've played with all the toys. It was a bit like that. Yeah, I mean, incredible. The drawings, but just by themselves, and the printing and the sound of the paper. It was like a candy store. So maybe something sunk in, and I'm going to be writing something on that. It's a great
Oh,
privilege.
well, seems like you've breathed in a lot of books and a lot of
Oh,
knowledge, and I'm sure it's going to like,
breathing a little fungus of dead paper. No, it was wonderful to be able to have. It was a privilege to be able to speak there and to go down and promote it. Use my name as an advertising modicum. So great thing to do.
amazing, amazing. I'm going to ask you one more question, completely optional. Love, has 2025 been a year of
Oh
love?
no, no.
No.
The I think the God of Love, my God of Love, has gone AWOL. I don't know. I have to go with the flow. But yeah, it'd be nice to sort of share the beauty of the world and I'm very privileged. I mean, I was looking at the 36,000 photographs that I have in my external hard drive. Um, of stuff that I've seen over the last 30 years. I've seen a lot of great stuff. I've experienced incredible things. I'm very grateful for that. But it's great to
Mm,
share it with somebody else who's got that passion as well. It's otherwise
yeah.
it's like, yeah, it's great, but it'd be great to put it into context with somebody else. That's hard. That weighs on me a lot, especially as you get older, because it's all slipping away, I think. But I don't know. You just have to sit there in that sort of quiet moment of introspection and let the gods do what they may. And
That's
you know,
right.
you give them the goalpost, and you hope that they'll kick you with you're going to be the football, and when the time is right, they'll kick you through the post, and there you are. So I might yet see you in this. Walking trip around the South Island on the coast and bring attention to the water. Actually, that
You're
might be
on.
something to look at.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
would mean
do.
a lot
And
of
you are talking about, being in the flow and all these waters kind of phrases
yeah.
coming through. I'm like, it's the time of the waters for you. Okay, go with the
Yeah,
flow.
you'll
And
have to go by Invercargill, unfortunately. But
because there's
I
that little bay.
I've always
Yes.
joked that Invercargill in that area it might be actually an up and coming little place. Don't put it down that much. There is a nice actually garden there, and there is a sacred area not far is to the west of Invercargill. There's a bay, and it's Pahia Bay, and there's a big mound on that bay, and there's a moai that
Mm,
was brought there by the white half from Easter Island. It's buried there, and you'll never find it, of course, and it's not meant to be found. And I didn't know where it was, and I happened to be passing by, and I felt like stopping the car, going there, not far from Gemstone Beach,
mm,
and feeling that tingly wingy. It's like, oh, there's something very important here. Looking at the little mound, the area on the bay, and I went, there's something there. That's some. Oh, I need to go and walk there. It's powerful, and that's when I found out that there's a moai buried there. It's one of the power points of New Zealand. So, yeah, that'd be
mm.
a great little thing for you to have a go at. A walking tour around the coastline of the
Yeah.
south. Yeah.
I would love to go there, and I've often thought I really would love you to map out all the moai because I know there's many throughout New Zealand,
Over
and
there.
obviously there's Easter Island. I'd love to go on a pilgrimage just to visit those
Yeah.
locations and soak it in.
Well, Barry Brailsford knows where they are.
Okay,
I kind of
okay.
got them from him. And then a couple of the areas are kind of nebulous, so I had to figure it out by a little bit of acumen. And it's not highly published in case idiots go there to dig them up.
Mm,
And so it's the kind of thing that you kind of you tell people to keep quiet at the same time if that's
mm.
possible.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, it's self-protected for a very good reason.
Oh, thanks so much. It's been a great
It's
catch up.
fun, Gina.
Thank you.